is the last large port on the Danube before the second longest river in Europe meets the Danube Delta. The small Romanian city is subject to increasing tourism as small boat excursions into this Danube nature reserve embark from here. The Danube flows almost 3,000 kilometers through 10 European countries, begins in Germany and extends to the southeast of Romania. Due to growing demand, Tulcea now contains several hotels and a harbour promenade. The river's cruise ships have become even more luxurious and now come with all sorts of entertainment and leisure activities. "2,200 years ago, Greek settlers from Milet founded the town of Ecosystem. Later, Tulcea became the basis of Rome's northeastern navy and was transformed by subsequent rulers. The modern Danube Delta Museum features nature. In the aquarium, a large variety of both domestic, fresh and saltwater fish can be observed at close quarters. Life-size figures portray fishermen in their modest living conditions in the delta. Next, stuffed wildlife, fishing boats, and scenes of the daily work of the inhabitants of this secluded natural landscape. It's clear that the pelican is a popular heraldic creature of this region. The best way to travel here? A rented boat, and off we venture into the infinite expanse of the estuary. Tulcea is the gateway to the delta. Here, the Danube is divided into 3 tributaries. We choose the middle one, Bratul Sulina, and make for Crisan. Painted in vivid colours, small fishermen's huts and guest houses provide overnight accommodation. Very cosy and well appointed. The ideal starting point into the region's amazing labyrinth of thousands of canals and lakes. Increasing tourism provides new hope and a better future for those who live in this relatively deprived area. Life in the delta also involves living alongside wildlife, here, there, and everywhere. ducks nest with their brood on electric towers in front of the buildings. Clearly well at home here. An idyll in a pristine, wild and water-formed landscape. An idyll that could have been destroyed by human encroachment. Soon, the next morning, our journey follows the Sulina Tributary, which contains the main traffic to the Black Sea. A busy waterway. Next, we turn into a canal, and suddenly, all is tranquil. But the silence doesn't last long, because the old Danube opens up again with fishing boats and a houseboat. We arrive at fish delivery point Mila 23. Here, the wooden boats and nets of the village fishermen are drying out. The river traffic can suddenly draw to a halt, and everything fades into an incredible silence. Around a tiny central landing stage, typical delta buildings nestle together. Here live the Lipovans, descendants of the devout Orthodox people who migrated here from Russia. The men wore long beards when, in the 17th and 18th centuries, they fled from Russia rather than submit to the reforms of the Tsars. Once again, we travel along small canals and again encounter a houseboat and fishermen. Next, isolation and peace. The heavy branches of mighty trees hang down into the murky water and reflect in the canal. Most of the Danube Delta is located in Romania. Here, over the centuries, the Danube has created a wilderness of water. A labyrinth of tributaries, canals, lagoons, lakes, marshes, and lowland forests. Only isolated wooden fishermen's huts emerge before the green jungle begins to devour any sign of civilization. Measuring 4,500 square kilometers, the Danube Delta is also a paradise for bird life. It acts as a magnet for migratory birds, as it is a junction for 6 migration routes. The Danube flows across this natural paradise 2,845 kilometers to the Black Sea. It is the bolt hole of the final barrier, the Dobrudscha Mountains. The Danube Delta is a biosphere reservation that is protected by UNESCO, as is the Great Barrier Reef off the Australian coast and also the Galapagos Islands. The land between the waters is a magical landscape of dikes, fields, floating reed islands, marshes, lakes and small canals. Here congregate millions of birds, for whom the reeds provide both shelter and food. More than 300 species live in this region. Only 20% of the area is solid ground. The remainder consists of water, reeds and floating islands. Again and again, lakes suddenly appear, the chosen domain of swans. They feel protected here. In the higher trees, cormorants nest. They prefer to nest in groups on a single tree, on which there are often 20 or more nests. There are tiny pygmy cormorants with a brown head and neck, a black back coloured with traces of shining metallic green. It is estimated that there are around 9,000 nesting pairs in the swamp region. This is one of Europe's last primordial landscapes and is situated at the intersection of Europe's main bird migration routes. The climate is much milder than in the rest of Europe, and several bird species also spend winter here. A large stock of fish provides a plentiful supply of food. Cormorants dive and then busily dry their feathers. The wetlands are a habitat that is neither river nor sea. A timeless area, as in bygone centuries. Spoonbills are also one of the more than 300 species of birds that have accepted the impressive tranquility of this area as a refuge. Observing carefully, there are a number of various camouflaged birds in the surrounding green areas. Plants floating on the surface of the water promote the circulation of nature. As do underwater plants, which ensure the growth of animal organisms. Although the vast delta seems to be without civilization, occasionally tourist boats appear. Water canals, marsh areas, lakes, and free-floating reed islands alternate with each other. Thus, nature itself ensures that completely varied wildlife communities coexist here and benefit each with the other. The word delta is used in many languages to describe the division of one river into several tributaries before its waters flow on into the sea. At its mouth, the Danube divides into three branches: Tulcea, Sulina, and Sfantul Gheorghe. The delta resembles a place of land and water that was created almost 10,000 years ago. It has become Europe's largest wetland area and the largest connected reed area on the planet. In the last century, under the rule of an irresponsible dictator, an ecological catastrophe almost occurred. In the 1960s, almost 1/10 of the reed area was cleared and the land laid dry. But the fall of the KP regime in 1989 put an end to further ecological devastation. The Danube Delta was saved and became a biosphere reserve in 1990. Reeds, so important for the delta, were commercialized and also serve as a retreat for many species. By way of tributaries and the Danube itself, nutrients, nitrogen, phosphates, as well as heavy metals flow into the delta. Now, reeds act like a natural filter against over-fertilization and help the wildlife to survive. Everything here is impressive, and with a little imagination, one can describe an excursion into the Danube Delta as an expedition to the end of the world. Or as an adventure into a terra incognita, as Romanian scholar Grigore Antipa referred to it in the last century. This delta is geologically the youngest on the continent. with more than 4,000 square kilometers in Romania and 800 in the Ukraine. The summer months bring tropical temperatures and high humidity, and the cold winter steppe climate can take the temperature down to minus 25 degrees. It is then that everything freezes and the delta ice becomes up to 1 meter thick. With regard to the development of the delta, Grigore and Tipa assumed that this area was originally a liman. This lagoon-like beach lake on the coast of the Black Sea was encircled by a strip of shore area that was cut off at 6 places by the Danube. These typical estuary areas were created by a post-Ice Age increase of the sea level, which led to flooding. But the waters of the Danube gradually silted up the Liman and added an estimated 185,000 tons of mud to the Black Sea. Slowly, the present delta was formed, which divided into 2 large sections: the river delta in the west and the maritime in the east. Willows and other trees that grow on the occasional solid embankment mystically reflect their branches in the calm waters of the canals. Thus, a boat trip between the northern lakes becomes a journey through a mysterious and impenetrable dream landscape. Trees are often found growing directly in the water, as some areas become flooded until they eventually settle and form solid ground free of water. Again and again, a canal enters a lake that contains waterfowl. Soon we enter a canal disturbing the wildlife as we go. It's a paradise of untamed nature that each spring develops into a jungle within this watery marsh landscape. Here, the birdlife enjoys the unspoiled environment of water, reeds and trees. Everything here takes on a different dimension, and the noise of the outside world is replaced by rippling water and the gentle sound of the breeze. Our route travels past suddenly opening lakes amid surrounding reed and forest belts. Here we move carefully between white and yellow carpets of water lilies, which create an impression of an almost surreal world. The boat again makes its way along one of many countless canals, which soon become impassable. Suddenly, we spot them. Pelicans, the kings of the delta. In this primordial landscape, they gather and together form the largest colony in Europe. Groups of pelicans swimming closely to each other are surrounded by cormorants who enjoy the party, all of them fishing together. When they hunt, the pelicans smash the water with their wings, produce strange sounds, and push the fish to the shore. There, they are able to catch the fish at ease, since in the shallows, they can easily reach down with their beaks. When other groups are on the move, they form an impressive spectacle in the sky. Their wings become more than 3 meters wide. These large waterfowl weigh up to 13 kilograms, which make their start and landing maneuvers somewhat unwieldy. However, once they're in the air and make optimal use of the thermals, the elegance of their flight is breathtaking. We again travel on a lake whose surface reflects the radiating blue of the sky. And where individual waterfowl breed in floating nests of reed and water lilies. The flora is also extremely diverse here. The yellow iris can be found among the reeds. rare fire-bellied toad is also well camouflaged in this habitat. Plants float on the surface of the water, and underwater plants promote the reproduction and growth of numerous animal organisms. On the inside leaves of the white water lily are often found large quantities of eggs of Limnaea and Planorbis snails. Water lilies are plants with long roots, with which they anchor themselves into the mud of rivers, ponds and lakes. The underwater plants both develop and fade away under the surface of the water and form a dense net which moves with the flow of the water. The boat winds its way through carpets of water lily leaves, whose yellow and white flowers gradually begin to bloom in spring. Life on shore is difficult to see from the boat. Only grazing cows are visible. And a question arises as to how the animals arrived here, for there seem to be only reed-grown marsh meadows all around. Flats now accompany this canal. The high littoral become natural dikes which separate the water from the land. Thus, over time, landmass is formed upon which people subsequently settled and built dwellings. Such a village is Letea, which at first sight fails to reveal that it is completely built on sand. A few small houses form this village community, colourfully painted with thatched roofs and fenced vegetable and flower gardens. And a medium-sized church of Orthodox construction. Here too live Lipovans, the Orthodox Christians of the Old Faith. Burgeoning tourism made the inhabitants enterprising, with horse-drawn carts and later cars. From the village, visitors are transported along a canal between a huge sandbank, passing large areas of water, the result of flooding. Due to the water, fresh greenery appears on the sand dunes and white clouds reflect in the bright sunlight. Soon we arrive at our main destination. Next to lush green meadows, the wall-like forest area of Letea. One more short journey on the sand. On the left, forest. On the right, meadows and solitary trees. On closer inspection, one can see that grass, flowers and flora emerge directly from the sandbank. Wild horses also live here and thrive in an oak forest that is hidden from the dune landscape. The Letea Forest is Europe's northernmost subtropical forest and the oldest nature reserve in Romania. This strip of forest has developed within the hollows of long rows of dunes, where the groundwater is close to the surface and where a rich layer of humus has collected. The magical forest contains exceptional flora that is unique to this area. The trees are partly covered by water, the tree tops and sky merging splendidly together. Where the sunken forest thins out, large sand dunes begin. The soil here consists of mud and sand deposits in the form of dunes, some of which are more than 3 meters high. The reeds, so important for the delta, are also used industrially, for roofs, matting, fences and general construction, as well as combustible material. The thin reeds of the coastal areas are mainly used for roofs. The thick reeds make an ideal fuel. The harvest takes place in winter with powerful machines for which the ice is no match. In the delta, land is created before our eyes, as though in a huge laboratory in which water and land continuously vie with each other. canals are lined with rows of willows and poplars. Each season has its own characteristics and all of the beauty of a fascinating swampland. The Danube Delta region is formed by the famous river, which each year brings with it around 50 tons of deposits. The water is brilliantly clear, and in lakes and canals, numerous water plants thrive on countless microorganisms. As there's no interference from shipping in any form, the underwater world here extends freely, and its plant life duly multiplies. The Danube Delta is the only delta biosphere reserve in the world and features a diverse mosaic of living environments. Newly arrived in the mid-Sulina, main arm of the Danube, we again encounter fishermen who continue to work hard in demanding conditions. We arrive in Sulina, a port on the Black Sea, and at the same time, the end of the canal of the same name, which runs through the delta, former seat of the Danube Commission. The historical St. Nicolaus and Alexander Cathedral was built during the reign of King Carol I, following Turkish liberation. From here, tour boats begin excursions into the delta. Each skipper glances at the old lighthouse as it finally signals farewell to the Danube and its remarkable delta. A world of untamed nature that is continuously being transformed, an ancient landscape indelibly locked in the past.